Much Freak, and that was an impressive game one from Counterlogic Gaming. From the opening minutes, it seemed like CLG had control. Level 1, there was an invade from Coast. Bit more than they could chew.
The Ezreal
lost,
face check.
Yeah, face check, lost 2 flashes, and from there on out, you just felt like CLG just had complete control of the laning phase.
Yeah, that level 1 was definitely very bad for Coast. It's not like they didn't try, though. He shot a Mystic Shot in the bush to start it off. That's why he face-checked it. He missed everybody that was in the bush, though.
To be fair, that's a pretty small missile for the width of the whole area.
Yeah. The thing is, though, it took away Nintendo's flash, got him behind in the jungle, so Dexter gets a 3-buff start. So they won the jungle from that invade. They also won the bottom lane from that invade because Afromu got a huge chunk out of Wiz Fusion, and they basically just rolled over the lane from there. So that was jungle and bottom lane heavily for CLG.
But I don't even think it's that the level 1 that was that important for bottom. I mean, when they died, neither person used their heal. Both the heals were up after he died.
We're not going to gloss over that mistake, but
I mean, Yeah, it hurt them. Yes, he was chunked at the start, but I think it was just misplay altogether. If you die without using your summoner spells, it's just unacceptable. And you could see it like all game. Like Nintendo Dex, he seemed really out of his element. The fact that he had to start, didn't get a pull, he had to start his red buff. They saw him start his red buff. He walked up and warded. He was like, hey, I see you there, man. So he's pretty scared to even just finish his red buff. So that put him behind. But I think that Coast could have had a chance to catch back up. They didn't make any of the right moves for it.
It didn't seem like they had the confidence to take the initiative and make any of those moves.
Yeah, there was a lot of times when, yeah, the moment is right in front of them. It's like, hey, you can do this.
Saints, we've got to replay this. We've actually got to replay this. It's a little bit obscure because nothing's going to happen. But when we were watching the first 20 minutes of the game, Saint, you were speaking out quite loudly about the Dragon control, Dragon decisions from Coast. Let's pull this first replay up onto your screens. It is at about 8:25 on the clock. Now, the thing that I want you guys to keep your eyes on is the minimap and where the people are moving. And Saint, talk us through what Coast could have done and decision making.
Okay, so here is, I think it was a huge miscommunication thing all throughout Coast. Jax's TP is down right here. You can see that. I'm pretty sure they didn't communicate that to his team. And also on top of that, Ryze chunks out Jax in a trade up here, which you're about to see. And just like those two factors together should be just a red flag that, hey, we got to move on Dragon. We got to seize this moment.
And they've seen Soraka backing in the bottom lane as well.
Soraka was backing in the bottom. And also, if you remember, Doublelift and Afromu had been pushing up bottom lane, and they got that kill, but they hadn't backed yet. So Coast bottom lane had backed. They're on fresh items. It's just right there. It's like, hey, take Dragon, punish them for what they did. And they just look scared.
The reason we bring that up is it's not the only time it happened. About 5 or 6 minutes later, there was another scenario, and you're sitting here going, why didn't it go right? Is it nerves? Is it tension? What are some of the theories as to why Coast could have done it? Playing it safe, maybe not seeing it, maybe being scared. It's quarterfinals.
I don't want to say playing it safe because it almost looked like a communication thing. If they had that information, it's like, hey, Jax is chunked out. He doesn't have his TP. Like, we have to move on this. You know, nobody wants to make that call, make that critical call. And you have to make those calls to win the game. It's not just like, hey, like, let's just farm it out and hope that things go the best. And yeah.
It seems like they were so worried about making a mistake like that, making a bad call, that they don't make any calls.
Yeah.
And people have said so many times, it's better to have everyone follow a shot caller, even if sometimes they make the bad calls, than it is to have all these people making their own calls or nobody doing anything. There's no decisive moves. You can't win games like that.
Well, we do have a decisive move. This time it was CLG that pulled this first kill, or one of the kills, rather. Let's pull a second replay up onto the screens. Starting off, this is, of course, a Baron Pit fight much later in the game. We know Doublelift gets a kill 1v1 on Shifter. Kobe, talk us through maybe some of the calling here from CLG. Let's roll the clip out.
So I do like, especially the popular two-man Barons with the Pharaoh Flares nowadays, but they make the quick call. I don't even know how he soloed him over there, but they make the call to jump over the wall, not once, but twice, even though Afromu stays in there and they want to keep on this Baron. They have Soraka, who's amazing at zoning. She can continue to heal herself up here and zone off the rest of the team while they do that duo-man Baron, and they have the sustain here. Everybody can jump over the wall, so they come over again, second time, and then even though Shifter does come in the back, there's nothing left for Coast here because they've already taken out 2 of the people.
At this point in the game, you really felt like CLG were in complete control. Coast struggled. We were touching on Dexter versus Nintendo. And I briefly want to talk about how effective Dexter was on Nocturne. Went unkilled, picked up a Blade of the Rune King super early on. He seemed to be farming and ganking well, as well as CLG having a very sort of meta composition. So what's your take on Dexter individually, and then, of course, the team comp that CLG were running?
I think Dexter had a much better grasp than Nintendo Dex did on the Feral player changes, because you should always keep it in your mind, I have to power farm, I have to reach my power spike, I just have to stay ahead of the other guy. And even though he only got off a few ganks, every time his paranoia was up, he'd show up top lane, and he would just snowball that Jax. Nintendo Dex, he didn't really gank that much. He got that one gank on top, which wasn't, of course, really successful because he didn't have the flash. But if you know that you can't get successful ganks off, your other option is just to farm as hard as you possibly can and to control Dragon. And he didn't do any of that.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
I think the older mindset of junglers kind of showed in Nintendo's play here, because he's playing from behind, so he's trying to catch back up. And usually going to these empty lanes where your laner just died and cleaning up the lane farm is a good thing. But like you said, when you're Feral Flare, you're trying to get it stacked up as quickly as possible. And he was like 20 stacks behind. Yeah, he was way behind on stacks there for the Feral Flare, which means that your power spike is not going to come through.
So I got a question I want to look at. 3 summoner heals, rushing Locket of the Iron Solari, second item on mid Soraka, 0010 by Link. Kobe, what do you think of the pick? What do you think of the items?
The mid Soraka, of course, it's super strong right now. With the addition of heal, it makes it even worse than the barrier mid Sorakas that were already really strong, because now she has the move speed also, and she can take off the ignite debuff. But I do like the Locket pickup on her. Cooldown reduction is extremely important on any champion where you're spamming any sort of spell. It's like, it doesn't matter how short the cooldown is. Like Evelynn, even though the cooldown is really short on her Q, since you're using it on cooldown, that's the maximum effectiveness that you can get out of cooldown reduction. Same idea with Soraka. She's always spamming Star Call. You want cooldown reduction, and it's a great defensive tanky item there. So really good team play from Link around this time.
Yep. I also want to point out that LeBlanc actually has the advantage in lane over that. But once it comes out of laning phase, anytime LeBlanc ever goes in on your team, you just silence her, and it's like, hey, look, she's just kind of standing in our team. Let's kill her.
Link the combo breaker.
We'll have to see what happens in Game 2. Right now, we do have to take a quick break. And when we come back, as we've mentioned, it is Game 2 of CLG versus Coast. But first, with so much on the line, players have a